Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think that, when the calendar page turns to December, it seems appropriate to say "'tis the season," but I feel like as music educators, we could say "'tis the season," and it could be celebrating any number of seasons. So a happy holiday season for all of you that are preparing many holiday performances. If you have had the pleasure, as I have, we marched 3 parades in the past 7 days, so it's been pretty awesome. And honestly, one of our board members, Bobby Lambert, had posted something on Facebook this week, just reminding all of us to not worry about the wrong notes that we may be putting out there, but just to think about, with all of our holiday performances, the joy that you're bringing to everyone in the audience. And I think that we needed to hear that, some of us louder than others, myself included, that at the end of the day, that key change in Sleigh Ride is really only going to make the first clarinets cry. Right? Everybody else in the audience is going to think it's the coolest thing ever. And so, uh, 'tis the season, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for making time to be here. We'll start this evening, as we always do, with Tim.
Thank you, Cecilia, and thanks for everybody for being here. Two quick things. We want to make the most of the time tonight. One is I dug out an old survey that we had done at Consumer about why students quit music, particularly after they've invested 4, 5, 6 years. And the interesting overall point, and not to dig into the weeds, but less than 10% of it had to do with music. And even that 10%, it was something like, I played in the college wind ensemble and I'm a middle school director and I don't have any idea about what literature I should be accessing right now. So I thought that was interesting. 90% of the people who are walking away, it's got another reason. And so we need to widen our scope to make sure we're addressing those things. The second thing is, when I was at Western International Band Clinic, Pat Sheridan said something that just resounded. He said, most of us in our careers of teaching, maybe we'll have 2, perhaps 3 people who will go on to be professional musicians at the highest level. All right. That's our lifetime, 2 or 3. And maybe if we stayed in it our whole career, we'll have 30 or 35 people who will go on to be music educators, right? What about everybody else? And that everybody else is a lot of people. And that everybody else is the doctors and the lawyers and the architects. And the thing that is so interesting, I think we have to keep reminding people, is that all the smart kids aren't in music, that music actually makes them the smart kids. And those, you are developing the leaders of tomorrow. Now, if we're up to me, they'd all be musicians forever, right? But the reality is we affect that top level of the supreme musicians 3, 2, 3, or 4 in our lifetime. There's another 30, 35 who become what we are. And then there are masses who go on to be the leaders of tomorrow. That's the influence you have. And that's a lot of influence that makes our future what it is. So those are my thoughts about wisdom today. What do you got for us there, good friend?
Good evening, everyone. So as we are winding this thing down, we many times in Slam, we talk about being in the music business and the people business. And that, this whole idea of how these two ideas collide together. So I want to start with the music side and pull all this together just a little bit. So if we get students to fall in love with music, and there's some, obviously some things that we see, but music makes students more human. It allows students to artistically state who they are and how they feel. It provides creativity, imagination, and wonderment. It allows the opportunity to express a thought or a feeling. Expressful and insightful music making elicits feelings that touch the heart, right? And music transports students to places both known and imagined. That's what we're trying to do in that side of things. And we're trying to do that in an environment that is safe, accepting, full of love, where students are encouraged to be the best versions of themselves. So then what does that look like in your program? So students have a great playlist. Like I want to know, like every student that we teach can resonate with music the rest of their life. I want to know what's on their playlist. You know, I think I told you this one time. My daughter, Caroline, she has 12 and a half hours a playlist of just great music. And I love the fact that, you know, she just loves great music. Their musical skills are improving technically and expressively, and they feel a sense of accomplishment. All students, regardless of ability, feel successful and proud to be in the program because it's built on love. The community is aware that your program is a strength of the school, and the parents say, I want my child to be a part of that. And that they say that because they want them to be a part of it in terms of its culture and its musical development. And then there's just a culture of musical and personal excellence throughout the program, and it's not either or, it's and. So those are my words of wisdom for tonight.
Great. Fits right in, Scott. Yep. And for those of you who are parents, all the skills and talents that we're developing transferable to everything we do in life. So I'm going to introduce our guest, and I'm going to let you help me on this, Steve, a little bit too, because you have a different perspective of Bobby than I do. You work with him in a different way. Mr. Floyd is executive director of TMEA. He just retired. And for me, he's the exemplar for one person makes a difference. And every time I brag about him and what he's done with and for TMEA, who is everybody wants to be like them, he always kind of shies away and says it takes a village and so forth. But we all know somebody's got to be driving the car. And every time I've been around him and watched him interact with people, he should write the book on communication because he knows how to do it better than anybody else, and it's innate. Mr. Floyd, would you just let us unleash our little audio thing here and welcome you? Can you all do that for me? Unaudiate. Say hello to
Welcome.
Steve. Again, tell us what you got.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's get started, Bobby, and first talk about, let's go back to when you first went to TMEA. How hard was it for you to walk out of the classroom and walk into an organization that was going through some difficult times?
Yeah, it was really hard. Tim knows my story and Steve do, but the 30-second version of my story is that when the job opened up 31 years ago, I didn't apply. Even though I'd been president of TMEA and done all the stuff and worn all the hats and done all of that, I wasn't going to apply. And literally the last day that you could apply for that job, I got a call from my predecessor. And he said, "Where's your application?" I said, "Bill, I'm not applying for his job." And he said, "Why not?" And I'll always remember my response. I said, "Because I'm a teacher and I'm not done." Exactly what I said to him. So anyway, fast forward, I cobbled something together, got it in the mail. That was in May, last day of May, following September. The board did the interviewing. They selected me, but I didn't come for a whole year. I stayed at Berkner High School in Richardson, suburb of Dallas, and a whole nother year. And then took the job June 15th, 1993. And so it's been quite a journey. It's been a great ride. My rationale was that nudged me to take it and go was that I could just help more students at a different level. That was, and I'd like to think in the last 31 years, it's sort of played out that way with my work in the political arena. So anyway, that's my story, and it's been an incredible ride. And yes, I have had lots of help. It gets overstated about what I've accomplished, but it's okay. I I've really been interesting as we made the transition. And if you don't know Joe Munoz, he's going to be incredible. He's already in place, doing a great job. He doesn't need my help. But I'm sort of helping along the way, especially in the political things.
Bobby, would you explain how TMEA is affiliated or not affiliated with NAFME, National Association for Music Education, its posturing?
Well, we're not associating. So I guess that's the short answer. That would take a while, but it really happened back in the 1970s. And a decision was made between the two groups. Initially, you could join NAFME or MENC through TMEA, and we would say we, it's way before my time, even as old as I am, forward the money on to MENC, and so that worked for a while, but it was really MENC that made the decision that they didn't want to do it anymore. So they wanted to create some kind of unified due structure and membership. And Texans, what can I say about Texans? You know, it was a little bit of a strong arm deal, and our leadership said no. The positive outcome out of that was we did help start and create a state organization of MENC, supported them in every way, gave them meeting time, clinics, even invited groups at the convention for TMEA. We did that for many, many years. And any group can apply. We don't have NAFME sponsor groups at TMEA anymore, but they do have a meeting, and it's a positive relationship. But that's the short version of the story.
When you stepped in the political arena, what were some of the challenges that you faced? And then as you've kind of grown up and I use the word master, but you are a master of presenting and talking to the folks on the Capitol. Maybe what are some mistakes that you see, and how can people and directors better advocate for music education?
That's a loaded question. How much time we got? You know, so I walked into the Capitol in 1993. Our legislature in Texas meets every other year, whether we need to or not, 140 days, and that's it. Plus special sessions, but they're rare, even though because of the voucher thing, we had four 30-day special sessions that began the first day of June and every 30 days. And so they were still meeting in December and still did not pass vouchers. That's why this is going to be a bitter, bitter, bitter session for public education. So the governor is not happy, of course, and he will make us pay. And so it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes. At any rate, you know, I will say my learning curve still goes straight up at the Capitol, but I've learned a lot through the years. What I walked into that year was all of our laws on education are called the Texas Education Code. And our state used to rewrite them every 10 years. Well, guess when we rewrote them last? 1995. And so all they've done since then is get more bloated, more laws, more policies, even though our legislature will say, we believe in local control, except for these 2,000 pages of law that say you don't have local control. So, you know, that's sort of the game we play through the years. And I don't know, Steve, you know, I did have a very, very part-time, I don't think I even had that then, TMEA now has two very part-time lobbyists that work with me at the Capitol, and of course, Joe's already getting involved. But you hit on the key point. First of all, rocket science here, relationships, effective, successful relationships affect everything we do in our personal lives and our jobs, right? And I don't know what to say about that, except it doesn't make any difference if it's your students, parents of your students, your administration, and certainly the legislature. You better tell the truth. I will tell you at the Capitol, if you want to sink your ship and might as well go home and never come back, is you get on a hearing and a senator asks you a question and you don't know the answer and you make something up. And that will doom you forever. So I don't have any magic secrets to that, except it's telling the truth. It's common sense. It's the same thing with your students. Don't try to fool your students. They're really smart, right? Even if you're conducting on the podium, you try to cover up a conducting error, you're mad because they're not watching, and then you make a conducting mistake, and 65 sets of eyes are on you, right? So, you build networks, and I will tell you at the Capitol, we have 150 House members, 31 senators, and staffs. So there are several thousand people in the Capitol every day of the session. And I will tell you that you work more with staff members than legislators, because they're the ones quite often telling the legislator what to do, how to vote on a bill. We have 8,000 to 9,000 bills filed. They started filing November 15th. I don't know how many there are already filed right now, probably 3,000. And there'll be close to 1,000 education bills filed. So trying to just stay on top of things, stay informed. You say, well, how do you do that? First of all, I am blessed to have two very part-time lobbyists. The thing that's changed in the 30 years I've been working at the Capitol is technology. I went to a workshop on how to lobby when I first got to TMEA, and I always remember the first thing the presenter said was, legislation is decided by those that show up. And that's still true. But you can stay informed, educated, track bills, watch every hearing, every part of every session on the internet. So unlike having to practically live at the Capitol earlier days, now it may be half of March, April, May that I'll probably be there 3 days a week. But it's slow toward the beginning as things crank up. But in terms of advocacy, I've done a session before. I've done it at Midwest. Advocacy, whose job is it? Well, the short answer, you all know, as educators, it's all of our jobs, right? And I will tell you that I've learned through the years, we're as protected in law and rule meaning state board rule and law, as we've ever been in Texas. Music, art, theater, K-5, standards-based, required to be taught. Middle school, 1 credit of fine arts, 1 course in fine arts. There are no credits in middle school. Every student must complete, and that's standards-based. And then high school, no matter what degree plan you're on, 1 credit is required for graduation. So that's the requirements per se. There's flexibility in there to a certain degree, but it's protected us pretty well. And we been pretty content to keep it there. The biggest issue we probably had as it relates to graduation programs. In 2013, we created a new graduation program in Texas called the Foundation High School Program, where students have 5 different options. We called them endorsements. They're sort of tracks. And I remember I got called to a meeting in Houston and said, if we give you an arts and humanities endorsements, will TMEA support this plan? You know, there was a STEM, there were 2 CTEs, there was another sort of a general plan. And I said, that's not the issue. I said, the issue more than that is exactly what y'all have already talked about. Every student in our classroom is not going to major in music, but what our music programs are built on, and the students that we serve are the students that are going to be engineers, doctors, lawyers, attorney, all of that. And I said, if we don't protect the elective opportunities for those students to want to become an engineer, but wants to play in the orchestra 4 years, no, we will not support it. So when they passed the bill, you know, the bills are pretty general. I'm sure y'all know all this stuff. But when they went to the state board and the Texas Education Agency, which is their working arm, it's 800 or 900 people in Texas, working with the State Board of Education, it took from June to February to build those graduation, all the rules, all the details. And we had remarkably, I'll say good luck, but our State Board of Education has been incredible for us through the years. Now that's one's really, you're only 15 of them, and that's the one that's truly tied to relationships. And so we were able to build flexibility into those graduation programs that would give every student the opportunity to be a part of a 4-year fine arts or music program and still pursue an arts and humanities endorsement. And you could do more than one. So they could really graduate with both an arts and humanities and a STEM endorsement. So it's really been a good plan. It's still in place. And, you know, if anybody ever wants to talk about that, I'd be happy to. But that's when relationships are really important. When you're down to the nitty gritty of trying to write rules and make sure that the decision makers understand what you're trying to do and as always anchored it in the best interest of students, then that's we were very fortunate there.
Bobby, I remember you saying in one of the meetings and everybody knows you on the floor, and we're back to relationships again.
That's a stretch a little bit, but go ahead.
Well, you're training them, right? That much of the conversations you would have, 70–80%, were about the flowers and their pets and so forth. And oh yes, by the way, could you just address that a little bit in terms, because relationships are there for all of us, that at that level, the importance of those things?
You know, what's been a little frustrating in my first, I don't know how many years there, but the Capitol, unfortunately, is a different place today. There's a lot of hatred, bitterness. Plus, of the 150 House members, in January, 35 of them are going to be brand new. Last session, it was another 32. So in 3 sessions, over 100 of those 150 are new. Seemed like back in the earlier days, back in the 90s and up to 2010 or so, it just seemed like there were more people that came and stayed. and it was a more positive environment. And yes, you know, I did know a lot more of them personally. Here's who you have to really get to know if you're serious about getting to this. It's not just those 150 people. I had a lobbyist tell me one time, he said, don't worry about all of them. There are only 30 to 32 members of the House that you need to convince. The rest of them will go along. You know, it's sort of that kind of thing. And there's a lot of truth to that. But the people you got to really know are the chairs of your House and Senate education committees, because they control the power. If you can't get a bill heard in committee in January, February, you might as well go home, because if you don't get a hearing, your only hope would be to amend it to somebody else's bill in May. And that's really hard. So at any rate, so yes, Tim, I'll walk in the office. Hey, how are the kids? You know, common sense stuff. You know, I do it all the time. And it's, but I think music educators and educators in general, but you know, you guys all on this Zoom tonight, you know, if you were in my seat, you would do exactly what I did, you know. But I will tell you one thing that we have learned. TMEA was involved at the Capitol before I got there. I'd like to think, I know we've grown it through the years, and I've had the time to do that because I have a brilliant staff of 11 people that gave me time through the years to spend my time at the Capitol when needed. But one of the things I know for sure at the Capitol, and I think it's still that way, fingers crossed, we don't know how big those arts people are, and we don't want to find out. And we've had help with other arts groups. So the last session, a well-meaning, here's the other thing. Every member, this is all good. I don't want this all be about politics, but every legislator is interested in education because they know how it affects their district. But they also all believe they're an authority because they went to school. Here's what they forget. The way to fix a problem, they think, is just to add more minutes to elementary, whatever, reading, more. We had to beat down a course, and you say, well, why would you do that? On personal financial literacy, because every course you add takes away an elective. Every course you add for graduation, same in middle school. Every remedial, we have a lot of problems, just like I'm sure y'all do, about, used to be there were 3 or 4 electives in a 6th grade class, right? Now they're 10 or 12. And then there's remediation. They say, okay, we won't let the kid be in the band. We'll put them in remediation for a year because the performance on the state assessment is not meeting the standard. All of it, we're talking to the choir here. But it's critical, you know, that they're willing to listen to us and work through those chairmen of those committees. And by the way, a lot of great things happen because of, I'd like to think of the work of us in the arts, but also sometimes there's just a lot of luck. For example, the chair of the House Public Education Committee, 3rd year, may end up being the speaker, is my associate at TMEA's vet in Killeen, Texas. So remember, these 150 House members all reside. If I could get more of this through the years, it would have been great. But you'd be surprised how many arts people and music people live next door to. Oh, they're my dental hygienist. Oh, they're this. Oh, they're that. It's harder in the Senate, only 31. So anyway, relationships and recognizing who these people are and taking advantage of it. And I will tell you, and chair of State Board of Education twice, chair of the Senate Education Committee, 2 chairs of the House Public Education Committee. Kids were in the arts, and it wasn't music, it was theater, visual arts, dance, 2 in dance, 1 a professional dancer in New York. So we have made the decision historically, in the 2,000 pages of law at the Capitol, the word music does not appear. The word that appears is fine arts. And then the State Board of Education defines fine arts as music, art, theater, dance. So I'm the luckiest guy on the planet to have been in this job with the TMEA history before me. And in a sick kind of way, I've really enjoyed that work, and that's why I'm going to still be doing it a little bit longer.
Real quick, Bobby, Paul Kyle, you had a question. You put it in the chat, but I think it's a great one for Bobby, and then we'll get to you, Scott.
You want me to speak it?
Yeah, go ahead, speak it.
Okay. Hey, Bobby, Paul Kyle from Bolney, Minnesota. What's your elevator speech? You've just met a brand new representative, a senator, a staffer, someone you think that could be a valuable person. And how do you validate to them in 1 minute or less music education? What do you say to them that gets them in your court right away?
You really put me on the spot here, Paul.
That's what I get paid the big bucks for, Bobby.
Well, let me preface that by saying that's one of the most difficult decisions I have to make at the Capitol. You walk into a representative's office. First of all, the staffers are usually bright, talented, and young. So I'll go in and I'll make my spiel. I will tell you, I don't make too many cold calls. Usually I go in with a purpose, and it's because their time is very limited. And you're right when saying you got 1 minute. I tell them who I am. I tell them who I represent. I tell them why I'm there. And whether it's to pass a bill, I could give you 2 or 3 examples of this I want in the interest of time, but initially, well, I'm going to say initially when the laws were rewritten in 95, there were not going to be any standards, any state standards. We call them the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. The compromise, Governor Bush ran, this is back in the Governor Bush days. He ran on an agenda of back to the basics. And I heard him speak several times, reading, writing, and computing. We're going back to reading, writing, and computing. And on the 3rd page of the first draft of that education code, it said, fine arts may, not shall, be a part of a recommended, not required curriculum. That's the buzzsaw about February when that came out. And so it was like turning the Titanic to a degree. But that's when you literally, then you start making the rounds and going into the office, talking to the staffers. And you know what's uncanny? And this is not an inflated number. I'm going to say majority. But you go into those offices, a House member, it's the haves and the have-nots. Senators will have 10 or 12 staff members during the session. House member has 3 to 4. They'll have a chief of staff and a ledge director and 1 or 2 more people, maybe. And I'll go in and sit down and talk about, personal financial literacy that's going to take away an elective. Usually it's early 2000s, the huge issue was physical fitness. I don't know if you experienced that back in your day, in your state. There was just this huge, but well, it's hard to get up and testify against children's health. So we we had the one thing you learn early on is every piece of legislation in some way is a compromise. You don't file a bill and it passes 2 months later, just like it was filed. There's so much negotiation. And we were successful at that. And but anyway, so you'll start talking to these young kids, I call them, and you'll finish, and they'll look at you and go, they won't say a word, and they'll go, oh, I was in Bobby Douglas's choir at LD Bill High School. Oh, I was in every theater performance at Temple High School. What do you need? I had that said to me. What do you need? Oh, I played bassoon in the Permian High School band in Odessa. You'd be amazed that you have a support group there. And they in turn, if their boss is not familiar, then they can certainly help educate them, and they can certainly guide them in their vote. Yeah, so I don't know, this is getting way too heavy into legislative stuff, but I love it. So again, so it depends on the issue. Back to you, Paul, about here's a more important issue based on your question. This is not just Texas, this is national, and you all know this. Who knows where public education is going in this country? But we've all experienced school boards being taken over in Texas, regardless of your political beliefs and affiliations. The conservative right component in our state, they believe there's one purpose in public school. Teach my kid the multiplication tables and teach them to read. Don't get into this touchy-feely stuff. Social and emotional learning. Right now, I don't know if you're aware of this, probably wouldn't be, but our State Board of Education just adopted the first step of House Bill 1605 in the last session, that basically the Texas Education Agency, the governor and the commissioner on education, they literally are taking over education in Texas. And they're taking the authority away from the state board, who has written all our standards, revised not all of it, but, and if you've heard the term not yet, you probably will. They're trying to turn, so the first round is K-5, English language arts and math. And the term is they're trying to turn public school into Sunday school. If you haven't heard that in your state, get ready. So they're embedding Christianity and baby Jesus and Queen Esther. It's amazing. TEA is going to write, they're going to write the standards, they're going to write the curriculum, and they're going to write the lesson plans. And the incentive to you, it's not required, but the incentive to do that is they're giving them $60 per student and another, it's all online, every bit of it. And they're giving them $25 a student to print it. So that's, anybody nod that that's happening in your state, or is it only Texas so far? So anyway, I say all that to say these are different times. Now, do we feel threatened by it? Stay tuned. Not yet. You know, this is going to take years to implement, all the way up to into the secondary and certainly into what we call in Texas the enrichment courses. We have the foundation courses, the enrichment courses. They all have standards. Maybe the biggest battle we've won since those laws were rewritten was that there would be no standards for anything else except reading, math, science, English, and social studies. So a school district, that's flexibility, right? what's the message to the school district? Oh, we don't have a test for it. We don't have any standards. I had one administrator, one legislator say, just let the kids go down there and have fun. You don't have to teach them anything, that kind of. So that went away. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go down that path. That's the biggest threat in Texas right now, is where is public education going? Because the leadership in this country, I can't speak to the recent election so much, but in Texas for sure, they want to privatize. They want public education to go away. They want it all privatized. And that's why the push across this country for vouchers and the money behind it, you would just coming into Texas from the East Coast, it's unbelievable. Little House member elections who voted against vouchers, $3 million. The governor got $6 million from an organization in New York to help pass vouchers, and it didn't pass still. So anyway, I'm sorry how I got off on that trail, but ultimate impact on music and arts, yeah. What we would immediately be concerned about is, okay, then are they going to tell this theater department you can't do that play? Are they going to say you can't play that music, with your orchestra? Because all of our instructional materials through the years have been, in terms of textbooks, and now online materials, are all approved by the State Board of Education. So anyway, well, didn't mean to get off on all of that stuff.
It was all fascinating. Thank you, Bobby.
But me, so I have to go, I got to finish that up. So when I walk in an office, forget the staffer, but what message do you use? We didn't get into music to raise a test score. And we didn't get into music so a kid could learn collaborative and commitment skills and all that to be successful in the workforce. It's a wonderful byproduct of what happens in our classrooms and in our programs, right? And I will tell you, in Texas, workforce preparation is huge, still huge. And I see a lot of nods there. I think that's universal, I think, across the country because of all that federal money that's out there. So, but I have to make that decision because we all got in music to, I think y'all have already said, and Scott did it, but nurturing the human spirit, I don't know, touching and changing kids' lives is why we do this through music. And, but that doesn't resonate with, you have to be careful about that with certain politicians.
Is that where they, excuse me, Bob, is that where they think the touchy-feely part is?
Well, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. Well, social and emotional learning, to me, parents are looking for two things for their child. A safe place, a classroom that's safe and inviting and engaging and embracing their child. We all know that. Yeah, I mean, you've already spoken to that. Scott was talking, I was thinking, amen, 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 amen. But then, for the people that don't, hell no, that's not what public school's for. I'll take care of that at home, So you do have to make those decisions sometimes on the fly about what you sense for the people that are hell-bent on workforce preparation. I will prostitute myself and talk about, the work preparation college career and military readiness. I guess that's a national term, but it's used in Texas. We were almost passed a law that said coherent sequence in fine arts would count because there's a money trail to it. And there was a shouting match in conference committee in May, and the new commissioner of education pulled it out. So we may try that again. Right now, we're going after money per student in a fine arts course. It's not going to be a lot of money in secondary school. Probably only going to be 90 million or so. But we filed it last session and it was still in the pot, but the entire bill got nixed by the governor. So anyway.
All right, Scott Sheehan, did you still have a question?
Yes. Thank you. Hello. Sorry, finding the mute. First of all, thank you for being here, and thank you for all the decades of work you've done. It's just incredible to hear the stories and everything tonight. Having done some of this similar work for NAFME over the years, it's a slog, right? It's the long haul, and I'm just curious for you personally, what's kept you going? What's kept you, banging on the doors, knocking on the senators' doors, making sure you have that message ready? Because it's all of that work that happens behind the scenes that we're getting that sneak peek tonight, but it's also you have a membership of several thousand members in TMEA that you're trying to keep happy, and the truth is we're kind of getting beat up from all sides of these jobs, and you've done it and done it so successfully for so long. So I'd really love to know what your secret sauce is that has kept you going all these years.
Passion, love for the arts. So, I taught 26 years. I worked at TMEA. I'm still there. It's my 32nd year. So 58 years. I'm 81 freaking years old. I'm old as dirt. So, but it's passion. I still believe, I tell people I still got a fire in my belly. It's too important. We can't let it go. And I may be winding down a little bit, and I won't have to spend as much time at the Capitol perhaps this time, but we do have I'm blessed with TMEA. Here's another secret. If your state ever gets to the point that you could try to, first of all, you can call me. I have so much stuff I could help people with, and I do occasionally get calls, but if any of y'all want to talk about this, I'm retired. I have time to talk. But I'm happy to help anybody in any way I can to try to keep us going. And
Thank
again, you build that mindset. We sponsored a reception for the State Board of Education 2 weeks ago with some other education groups. And building friends inside that Texas Education Agency is important as all get out. Commissioners come and go. Our current commissioner is Rich, he was had the school board in Dallas, never been in a classroom a day in his life. He's got a buttload of money. Educating him about who we are, it breaks me up. I love this. It's already been mentioned today. He calls us the fun stuff. Well, I like that, but bringing joy and fun, it's already been mentioned this morning, tonight. Don't forget that part of what we do, Telling our story is more important than it's ever been. looking at all the stuff we talked about in the big picture. I think I said earlier, what advocacy is important at the Capitol. We're going to do that as hard as we can, as long as we can, of TMEA. But the critical lobbying now is in the community, is in the district, in the community. And as a young teacher, what, you want me to bring a woodwind quintet to play for the Kiwanis Club lunch this month? Don't you know I've got contests coming? I was one of those back in the day. I'd like to think I corrected it soon, but you know what I mean, telling our story. How nice it would be if when the band or the orchestra comes to the elementary school to play the concert or pass out the letter or meet with the students, and Johnny brings home his letter and shows it to his mother, and she said, "Oh yeah, Johnny, we're gonna do this. I know about this." A lot of I keep telling people, we should be advocating to the parents of elementary kids, not high school kids, somewhere else. So at any rate, Tim, tell me, I want 5 minutes at the end. So I don't know how long we're going, but give me 5 at the end.
You go.
So is this it? Is this 5? Okay, I thought it was probably already over time. I just want to share a couple things. I can do it in 5 minutes. I thought about this tonight. We're coming back. I like to think in Texas, we're coming back. We've got almost 1.9 million kids in a fine arts class tomorrow in Texas in grades 6 through 12. Okay. Kids get supposed to. Let's be clear. The law says, right? In K-5, kids are receiving music, art, and theater standards-based. They're not. But that's the goal, and many are doing it. There are a lot of reasons they're not, one of which is money, certified teachers, and all that stuff. But I remembered on May, so the pandemic hit, right? We're coming back from that. But I always remember this. That happened on what? March 9th or 10th. I know it almost caught our 100th centennial convention by about 2.5 weeks. But I remember on first day of May, I was out jogging and I was listening to a Brene Brown podcast. I don't know if you know, most of you will know who she is. Most known for her power of vulnerability and empathy messages. And I was listening to her, and she was interviewing 2 colleague writers, new writers that she was enamored with. And at the end of it, she said, "So where is this pandemic going to take us?" And I'll never forget what this one author said. She said, "None of us know where this is going to take us. But I do know one thing. Everything that matters will last." And that hit me like, I remember I stopped and I said, "That's us." And here we are, 5 years later, however many years later. And yes, we're going to last. We're coming back. We all have our individual issues and problems and challenges, but we're all coming back. Second thing I want to say is that, whether it's money, it's policy, it's law, it's rule, in the end, it's you, the teacher, that makes the difference. And at the risk of waxing philosophical, and I think it's true more about music educators than anybody, you understand that life and teaching are not about taking. They're about giving, sharing, caring, loving, and being thankful for that's what keeps me going, being thankful for the blessings we receive every day in touching and changing children's life through the art form that we love so much, the music. And when things do get tough, I love to say, one thing you can control is keep your head down and teach and change another kid's life. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for inviting me. You know, I miss being around colleagues. I love Lucy, but it's nice to be around. He's still back there. So thank you for everything you do, the battles you fight. You know, like I said, it's too important, you know, for us to not keep up the fight, and we'll survive it all. We already are. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Bobby. Cecilia?
I'm going to go as fast as possible. But there's so much great news to share with everyone. I want to make sure before we wrap it up for the semester that I say to you, I can't wait until next semester. We've already got some fantastic speakers lined up to join us on Sunday evenings for Craft and Culture Live. We've got the maestro Larry Livingston joining us from USC, recently appointed director of bands at Western Carolina University. Matt Henley is going to be with us. Dr. Julia Balmanis from Rutgers and co-curator of Go On, Tell Your Story, Voices of Women Band Directors is going to be with us. Mandart Chan, a friend of ours from Conselmer, who's from British Columbia, is the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at Canadian Music Educators Association, will be with us. Robin Hilger, the Executive Director from ACDA. Eddie Ursula, who's a former band and orchestra director at the Doral Academy Preparatory School and currently professor at Doral College just outside of Miami, will be with us. Educational consultant Glenn Schneider, and we're working on a few others. You may know them, like members of, I don't know, Canadian Brass and Snarky Puppy, just to name a few. It's a pretty awesome lineup. It's a pretty awesome lineup. So we, look forward to continuing our Sundays together. We're also really excited to announce that Crafting Culture will be coming to you this summer in 4 different locations. We'll be here in Atlanta, June 12th and 13th, in Charleston, July 2nd and 3rd, in Chicago with our friends at GIA, July 10th and 11th, and then in Calgary, Canada, the week of August 18th. Thank you to all of our Slam board members who have agreed to host those sessions. We're so excited to bring those to you. And finally, if you're planning on being in Chicago for the Midwest Clinic, please find us at our booth, which is number 1207. You don't have to write it down because we'll send it to you many times before and during the event. But we also ask that you plan to attend our Slam session on Wednesday at 4:30 with our very own David and Steve and Brian and Tim. And following their session, we will be selling and signing our new book, Crafting Culture, Becoming a Music Teacher Leader. There'll also be opportunities to meet with many of our other contributors at the GIA booth on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. right when the exhibits open and before the Starbucks line is too long, and then throughout the entire event at the Slam booth. So many exciting things. Who would have thought, right? Tim, how many years has it been now? We're approaching year 3
Coming
of
up to
this. Is it 4?
coming up
Has
to it.
it been? Just an amazing thing. Yeah, I see all the hearts coming from Reet. There's so many really great things to celebrate, and it is because of you and with you that we're able to do all of this. So thank you, Bobby, David, Steve, Tim. What have I missed?
Well, first of all, again, I don't know about the rest of you. I feel like I've had my brain scrubbed and my soul nurtured tonight. I'm gonna talk to our pastor, see if he can take some hints from Bobby and kind of on the edge of their pews a little bit more. Bobby, thank you. You know I love you. You are a dear brother. And Steve for getting this all hooked up for us, and to each and every one of you. You know, this is Family Slamly. So we want you to have a great holiday, spend time with your own family. And we'll be back at the first of the year. Bobby, you set the bar pretty high for the rest of the guests coming on. You know, what does they say? Never follow an animal act or a child act. We can add Bobby Floyd to that too. And to all of you for giving your time tonight. Have a great
That's great.
holiday. And it's wonderful to be reminded how our lives make a difference in such a very special way in those school systems where we change people's lives for the better. God bless you all. Have a great holiday. Peace. Thanks, Bobby. You're a good brother. Bye-bye.
Everyone.